Hello and welcome to Hockey Night Online. I'm Monika Platek. So happy to be joined today by Rob Pizzo from Hockey Night in Canada Radio. Hello, Rob.
It's weird that we're here on a Wednesday. It's usually Rob and Monika on the Friday, but schedules all got mixed up this week.
That's right. Well, here we are entering the last 2 weeks of the season, and that's why we're trying to get even more Monika and Rob time.
Let's do it.
Beyond that, we really want to celebrate the fact that this is the fans' show, and that's why we're making it all about the teams that you really want to talk about. And today, we're going to prioritize and talk about the only Canadian team right now that has clinched a playoff spot, the Montreal Canadiens. So as you're watching live with us, a couple of different ways for you to connect. We've already been gathering, though, a lot of questions from Twitter, and that's where we'll start in just a couple of minutes, because there was a scary moment in last night's game between the Habs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, it has to be said that both teams, while they were playing against each other, managed to clinch a playoff spot. But the scary moment I'm talking about was a headshot to Mike Kotzka from Habs D-man Douglas Murray, and he's facing a phone hearing this morning for this. What did you think of it, Rob?
Just go through the checklist of what is Rule 48. Contact to the opponent's head, absolutely. The head was targeted. It was the principal point of contact. The hit could have been avoidable, and the guy was injured on the play. This is definitely going to be a suspension, and Douglas Murray, I think, his only saving grace right now, Monika, is the fact that he doesn't have a suspension on his rap sheet. He's never been suspended, fined, any discipline whatsoever. So I think that will save him, and I think that's why we're getting a phone hearing, which usually means under 5 games. But when you look at that hit, and if you watch the reverse angle, you watch Douglas Murray's eyes, he never leaves Kotzka's head. The puck goes by him, he ignores the puck, he goes right for the head. It's just an interesting hit because he's not known for being a dirty player, but really this has all the characteristics of a really, really dirty hit.
He may be a first-time offender, but dirty nonetheless. And it was good to see that Mike Kotzka got up and was able to skate off on his
Stretcher's
own
always scary, yeah. When
somehow.
You see the stretcher come out, you know that a lot of times it's because of precautionary reasons, but still, he was out immediately.
Okay, so let's get to those questions. I'll check in right now with Twitter. And we are talking about the Montreal Canadiens today. Again, the only Canadian team so far that has clinched a playoff spot. So a lot of people are wondering, do you think the Habs have a physical enough team to make the playoff run? And then following up with this one, because everyone's talking about that lack of size that the Habs are always criticized for, how do you think they'll make it through the playoffs with that?
Well, one really is related to the other, and it's interesting because when you look at this team, if I sat here at this desk and said the Habs are a small hockey team, it's like saying the Sun's coming up tomorrow. We know they're a small hockey team. I did a quick check before we even came on the air here. 9 players who have played significant amount of minutes for the Montreal Canadiens this year are under 6 feet.
Right.
We're under 6 feet, but we're broadcasters. We're not hockey players. So yes, are they a small team? Absolutely. Are they necessarily the toughest team in the world? Probably not. Alexei Yemelin leads the team in hits, and he's 45th in the National Hockey League. They've only got 2 guys in the top 100 in that department. So you know what? They're not big, they're not bruising, but they are fast. And this is a team that's going to have to rely on their speed a lot. Look, they don't, when you're watching this clip right now, they don't really take anything from teams as far as they don't back down, but you're never really going to get into a bruising series with this team. So really the best thing they can do is use their speed and at least try to stay healthy.
Well, they are gritty, right? They may not be the biggest, but like you said, they don't like to back down, and they do have that speed going for them. But one of the most important things, hands down, when it comes to the playoffs is your goaltending. And that's where we'll go next with this question on Twitter from the Ice Dog. You know, I started off working for the Mississauga Ice Dogs back in the day. Yeah, not even a team anymore. All right, so it seems to me that as Carey Price goes, so go les habitants. Your views, Rob?
I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but I will say this about Carey Price. I think Sochi brought him to another level. And this is a guy who, he's gone through a lot in Montreal, and you know what? It might be the hardest job in the entire National Hockey League. Being a goaltender in Montreal, you're under a microscope at all times. If you give up one bad goal, it's a front page story in pretty much every newspaper. And you look at the Montreal Canadiens this year, 23 wins when they've been outshot. That's 4th in the NHL. They give up a lot of shots, over 30 per game, in fact. But with the way Carey Price has been playing, you never have to make an excuse for having a good goaltender. So I love the way he's playing after Sochi. It's really done a lot for his confidence level. Plus, you know, a lot of people talk about Sochi tiring players out. He had that injury when he came back, and he sat out a little longer than he necessarily had to. And the Montreal Canadiens said it. If the playoffs started tomorrow, he would be in net. They don't start tomorrow, so we're going to rest him. So he's able to kind of get back on track. I love the way Carey Price is playing right now.
Well, it's good to see that he was able to come back, and so far that injury has not acted up.
Sure.
There's also Peter Budaj, which I don't know if you want to touch on there. Or is that a whole other?
That's a whole other thing. I think Peter Budaj is a great backup goaltender. I think he's one of the best backup goaltenders in hockey when you look at it. If I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, do I want Peter Budaj leading me into the playoffs? Not necessarily. Right. So it's good that Carey Price is back. He's healthy and he's playing well.
Well, I'll tell you, Habs fans make that point quite clear.
Yeah, I don't think I'm stating anything that's not ridiculously obvious there.
You're not. Okay, so the doubts do continue to come in, and you know what? It's fine. They're warranted for, because it's not easy to be in the playoffs, especially in this day and age in the NHL where it's so fast and so highly skilled. So do you think their roster is too inexperienced and young to make a push in the
You look
playoffs?
at some of their key players. Brendan Gallagher, 21 years old. Alex Galchenyuk, 20. Even PK Subban is only 24 years old. So I understand the concern. They do have some members of the team that do have experience. You look at their captain, and Brian Gionta. He won a cup with New Jersey. He's been around since the day before forever. And that man right there, Michel Therrien, I think he does a really good job in motivating his young players. And they've done a great job this year. So would you like to go into the playoffs with a lot of players, with a bunch of Stanley Cups and a bunch of playoff games under their belt? Absolutely. I don't necessarily think it's as important as, say, what we talked about a minute ago in goaltending and, maybe some toughness. I like their young core. I like PK's. I've always loved PK Subban. I think he gets a bad rap, and I think a lot of people don't like him because of his brashness. But you know what? Some of the best teams that ever played the game were full of young, cocky players. So you know what? I like their makeup. I like that they've got a little bit of both.
The funny thing is I had a chance to talk to PK and Subban, and we were talking about the fact that he is this character, and he owns it so boldly. And he said, you know what, people only hate me because I'm good.
It's not a bad point right there. I think people hate him for, different reasons. Like I said, he's confident in it. He's got a lot of confidence in his skills, and he takes some chances that a lot of people who've watched the game a long time think are a little too risky, but you know what? I've always been a big PK Subban fan.
Okay, it'll be cool to see him in the playoffs again. So one of the other things we're talking about here is the fact that when it comes to Canadian NHL teams, well, the Habs are the only representation so far, but things are not looking too good. We have the Sens in 12th and the Leafs, who, fine, they snapped their 8-game losing streak last night, but let's get serious. So Jenna Morgan is saying, how the heck is it that the Habs are the only Canadian team heading to the playoffs?
It does seem weird, and we've mentioned it a few times on this desk. 1973 was the last time just one Canadian team made the Stanley Cup playoffs. It was the Montreal Canadiens. And they won the Stanley Cup. I think you look at a lot of the Canadian teams this year, and some of the biggest disappointments in hockey have been from Canadian teams. The Edmonton Oilers, I don't think too many people thought they'd be Stanley Cup contenders, but many people had them in a playoff spot. The Vancouver Canucks, I don't think anyone expected the collapse that we've seen from them this year. And the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators did so much last year with so many injuries, and yet they made the playoffs. This year, not so much. I don't think we expected too much from Calgary. And you know what? I'm not even going to delve into what's going on in Toronto right now. But the Montreal Canadiens have been there pretty much the entire year, and now they're in a battle with Tampa Bay. You mentioned earlier they both clinched, but I think this battle is great because what they did was they flip-flop who's going to get home ice advantage. Going into that game, it was Montreal. Now it's Tampa Bay. So even though they've both clinched, they have a lot to play for.
Well, exactly. Every single game is still significant when you think about it going into this final stretch. And one of the most exciting things that happened on trade deadline day, which was busy to start with, was the Montreal Canadiens acquisition of Thomas Vanek. And obviously a great addition to this team.
Yes.
It has proven so far. So this next question from Facebook from Matthew Murray saying, did Vanek give them that push that they actually needed to make it happen?
Well, I think the one thing Vanek has been is a pleasant surprise because I really don't think Marc Bergevin was in the market at trade deadline for someone like Thomas Vanek. But I think every single GM seemed to play the waiting game. They were all playing a game of chicken, and they were waiting for one domino to fall to kind of set the price for other dominoes. And in the end, Marc Bergevin was given an opportunity to get a Thomas Vanek for such a cheap price, and it's worked out. And he started off slow. Let's not forget, Michel Therrien had him on his checking line for the first two games, but now playing with Desharnais, playing with Pacioretty, it took a little while, but their chemistry has been phenomenal. I don't think he's necessarily going to re-sign in Montreal. He may consider it, seeing as he's played so well with them as of late. He has said time and time again, he is going to test free agency. This is something in a career that everyone has to do, and he wants to do it. Whether that's pushed them over the edge or not, I don't know, but I certainly think it's been a very pleasant surprise for them. And let's not forget, guys, 3 very magical letters here, UFA. He's an unrestricted free agent. Didn't play well in Sochi, so I think he wants to kind of rehab his image even a little bit right there after all the scandal with the partying and everything else. But if he plays well throughout the playoffs, his value goes up with every game.
And he's auditioning when it comes down to it.
That's basically it. That's basically it. Like, if you have a good playoff run, then you know the teams are going to want you, and you can bank yourself on a nice long-term contract. After bad Sochi and a bad playoffs, you're not going to make as much money.
The playoffs are the biggest stage, so he'll have that to audition to. Again,
Yes.
The Montreal Canadiens, the only Canadian team so far to clinch a playoff spot. And that was the topic of discussion today, but don't worry, we're going to continue to focus on your favorite teams. We're going to talk about the Vancouver Canucks tomorrow.
Okay.
And then the Toronto Maple Leafs on Friday, which will be you and Hockey Brof.
We'll see if they're eliminated by Friday or still in the running.
Listen, Leafs fans will want to talk about them regardless.
You got that right.
Thank you so much, Rob, for joining me today. Thank you for all of your questions. Remember to stay connected with us. We'll see you next time right here on Hockey Night Online.